Denise McAllister is with us, co-author of Spygate, which, by the way, required extensive research on the Mueller team. Gregg Jarrett, #1 bestseller, The Russia Hoax. I don't see any of these other important people being brought up on charges of having lied and being treated the way that General Flynn is being treated, Greg.
Well, you're right, because there's sort of two standards. If you're connected or support Donald Trump, you will have the full force of the federal government coming after you with a vengeance. But if you're a member of the Obama administration or friends of Bill and Hill, you get a free pass on everything. And this is why Americans have come to distrust and indeed fear their own government, especially the FBI and the Department of Justice. And as you and I were talking last night, I mean, it's come to the point now, if Mueller or the FBI comes to your door and wants to talk, shut the door. Don't talk. Call the nearest lawyer. Do not hand over documents. Because Mueller plays a gotcha game. If you don't remember a memo or an email you sent 2 years ago, you can bet he's got his hands on it, and he's waiting for you to say, I don't recall, I didn't send that memo.
Well, what if you don't recall? I mean, I was trying to be a little clever with you last night on TV when I said, think about this. This is an important day in your life, the day you had worked, well over a year pounding out every word alone in your book, because I watched you do it. Your office is 2 doors down from mine. And every day I saw you working and working and working. Anyway, so you get to this momentous day, and the book finally comes out, and we're talking about it on the show, and I said, do you remember the conversation that we had that day? And your answer is no. You don't remember specifics of that conversation. So,
of course not.
If you were saying that to Robert Mueller, I guess that means that you lied under oath like General Flynn. General Flynn was supposed to remember the contents of a meeting that he had with his soon-to-be counterpart at a time that was frenetic with a incoming administration. I don't believe that standard is ridiculous to me.
Well, you're absolutely right. And in fact, Mueller could never prove a case in a court of law that he's brought against people like Papadopoulos and Flynn, because under the law, look at the statute, 18 U.S.C. 1001. It requires that the alleged false statement be made knowingly and willingly. Failing to properly recollect something is not a crime, and yet Mueller criminalizes that which is not a crime to come after you for partisan and political reasons.
Let me bring in our good friend D.C. McAllister here and get your take on the whole Flynn situation and the massive double standard. By the way, tonight at 9, we're blowing open a story that it should shock the conscience of every American. We now have discovered email chains. I'll give you a hint. It has to do with FISA abuse, everything we've been saying, except now we've got smoking gun evidence tonight. But Denise, DC, as you look at this, I'm just wondering, we're literally watching the destruction of our justice system because we're not applying the laws equally. All these people that I mentioned either lie to Congress, lie under oath. Hillary Clinton is Exhibit A. They didn't spend the last year of their life having to sell their house because they're being haunted by a witch hunt, and now potentially facing even some jail time, having massive amounts of time with the special counsel trying to get any little nugget he can get so he can get at Trump and hoping that somebody composes. So how do you fix a system that has gone that far awry?
Well, the first thing you need to do is expose it. And Greg is right. There's a two-tier system of justice in our justice system. And you see this throughout this investigation from the very beginning all the way through the special counsel, and we're seeing it today. And with General Flynn, remember, that was in the middle of a counterintelligence investigation. It was not a criminal investigation. When they interviewed him, they had the transcript before them of what he had said. So why were they even asking him what he had said if they already had what he had said? Because remember, this is a counterintelligence investigation. So the whole interview that was going on was not even necessary. It reeks of a setup. And then they pounded on him. Met with him like 19 times trying to get information out of him. because they need him to be the connection between Trump and the Russian government, to have any kind of real crime going on. They're, again, as they've been doing from the very beginning, looking for a crime, using people to look for a crime, setting up, maneuvering, manipulating any little thing, like you said, that is averted, forgotten, maybe even a little lie because you're trying to cover for somebody. As a, you didn't want Pence to look bad when he came out and said there had been no Russian contacts during the campaign. These are the kind of things, whenever this happens, Mueller's there, with the trap. And he needs it. He needs to have his probe justified and legitimized, because from the very beginning, this has been to cover up and get you deflected away from the crimes of the Obama administration and Hillary Clinton.
And that's the point. The double standard, is glaring, and especially, how do you have an investigation into Russian collusion and influence in the 2016 election and not go after Hillary's bought and paid for dossier that was put together by an admitted liar who, even after the fact, after being fired, after admitting that it was unverified and raw intelligence, and he didn't know if any of it was true, Gregg Jarrett, but then he's still contacting the Department of Justice vis-a-vis Bruce Orr and trying to send messages to Special Counsel Mueller. So the Special Counsel that, is mad at the lying of General Flynn was seeking the lies of Christopher Steele, the liar.
Yeah, it is anathema to fairness and justice to be selective in how you enforce the law. If anybody engaged in a Russian collusion, it was Hillary Clinton who paid for Russian information, fed it secretly to the FBI and the Department of Justice to damage Trump. As I recount in my book, The Russia Hoax, that's a violation of the law, and I explain why, and yet nobody has ever investigated, much less prosecuted, Hillary Clinton and the others involved in that illicit scheme. And yet, there is not a scintilla of evidence that anyone in the Trump campaign, much less President Trump, ever colluded or conspired or coordinated with Russians to win the election. Just look at, I wrote a column published last night on FoxNews.com. It's entitled, Mueller Strikes Out Trying to Nail Trump. Flynn's Sentencing Memo is a Big Nothing. If you examine the sentencing memo and the addendum, there is nothing in there that ties Trump and Russia to this amorphous and elusive crime called collusion.
Right. And that article that Greg is referring to is up on Hannity.com. Stay right there. More with D.C. McAllister, Gregg Jarrett. All right, we're going to wrap things up. We got about 30 seconds each for D.C. McAllister and Gregg Jarrett. Greg, we'll start with you. With this blockbuster coming out tonight, and all these people we know lied, is there now a standard set? Will they now be held accountable?
With a new, confirmed by the Senate Attorney General, somebody like Congressman John Radcliffe, who would be great in that position, the answer would be yes, he will hold these people accountable. So I'm optimistic it'll happen.
D.C.?
Well, we also have to remember that the IG has reports coming out in his own investigations, and there's a bit of a war probably going on there in the Justice Department between these two entities trying to get to the truth. And I think Mueller is really afraid of what Horowitz is going to come out with. And if he does his job like he did in the first report, they will be held accountable and exposed.
Well, it can't come soon enough. All right, D.C. McAllister, Gregg Jarrett, thank you.